Hey folks, thanks so much for your time today and tuning in to listen. I hope Bradford Rand is the event organizer is taking good care of you folks throughout the day. My name is Patrick Vowles, team lead North American marketing at IBM Security, and we want to run through some really interesting developments and in the industry in general, and where we want to take the industry, or at least help take the industry, and that's with regards to this problem of too many tools not talking to each other, and how we're trying to move the industry towards an open platform. So, okay, one quick note on here too: we've adopted GDPR globally, so there's the little GDPR disclaimer there at the bottom there. Notice. Also legally more legalese about forward-looking statements. Hand on heart, we believe that everything we're going to talk about is going to happen, but things might change at some point. So that's some legal language around that. So a little bit of context on IBM Security ourselves. This is not really just to kind of show off. Maybe a little bit. It's more to just kind of establish our credibility. We found that when when we're talking to clients, some of them know exactly who we are and what we're capable of. Some folks didn't know IBM had a security division or what the general scope of that was. So there's just a few quick bullet points here. Just about kind of put us in context and why we think you should actually listen and even perhaps trust us. So going by the numbers, if you add up all our products and services that regard to security, we're actually the largest enterprise cybersecurity provider. I think it's around about 3 billion revenue. We tend to, so according to Forrester Waves and Gartner Magic Quadrants, most of our products, if not all of them, are leaders in the space. We tend to work on investing in a space that we see value. If we can't lead and differentiate in that market, then we'll potentially exit. So look at Gartner Magic Quadrant for SIM. We're a leader. We just came out as the leader for risk-based and continuous authentication, risk-based authentication in the Forrester Wave. So there's a lot of validation there for that our products and services should be considered. There are 8,000 of us altogether, and I think maybe one of the most interesting validations here is that across our own infrastructure and that of the customers that we manage with our managed security services, we're monitoring about 70 billion, at least 70 billion events per day. And the net of that is, we get really good insights all day, every day into exactly how the bad guys do what they do, how they're adapting on a day-to-day basis, how they're changing, their tactics, techniques, and procedures. And we likewise are on the leading edge of working out how to develop techniques, people, process, technology to defeat them. So I think that's a really good kind of validation there. We're really doing a great deal of work. Actually, even as far as forward-looking things like quantum computing, like how quantum computing is going to affect the encryption algorithms you have in place right now, and how to get prepared for things like that. So there's a whole range of forward-looking technologies and research that we're doing that we're able to pull that together and apply to our customers today. So enough about us. So the problem at hand. We're having thousands of customers with every piece of their security program, and it's overwhelming. And doing it the same old way that we've been doing it with these great products, whether they're ours or our competitors. That most of them are awesome at what they do, but our security teams and the IT folks and the development teams have so much to do. There are so many tasks that comprise a complete security program, and they've got a bunch of fantastic tools from a bunch of different vendors that are all great at what they do, but they don't talk to each other particularly well. And getting those to talk to each other is a hugely complex task. We found that a number of our customers have as many people in their IT division connecting all this stuff together and making it talk to each other, making those solutions talk to each other. They have as many people doing that as they do actually running and looking for attacks and responding to attacks. So that's a huge resource drain, getting all this stuff working together coherently. And then all these tools, all these sensors are throughout their infrastructure, they're overwhelmed with alerts, and how do they sift through that and find, sift through that and find the signal in the noise, as it were, and detect an attack, an actual attack against an asset they care about, validate that attack, and then work out how to respond, and then actually action the response and respond, remediate, recover, all those good things. So overwhelming. What's making that more difficult is, so while everyone's moving away from the cloud, obviously, this is showing, in the good old days, nice fixed perimeter, complete visibility and control over everything. Then mobile and SaaS came along, so the perimeter started getting a bit fuzzier. And now with the most companies have got hybrid multi-cloud, there is no perimeter anymore. But while this transition is happening, I think it's true to say that one of the main roles of the security team has also been a changing and adapting and actually elevating, instead of being an impediment to innovation and growth, a business innovation and growth, which I think many security organizations were seen as. To do this journey properly and effectively and efficiently and allow the business to innovate and grow, leveraging the cloud and this multi-hybrid cloud infrastructure, that in business innovation and growth is now dependent upon the security teams to enable that and make that successful. So that's why we're seeing security teams being brought into business discussions early on. It's a kind of a cultural change. You don't just secure stuff after the organization's decided to build and deploy something. Folks need to be brought right in at the beginning, and we're seeing that change. So we help bring the security teams right at the beginning of the journey, and build security in and build for the cloud, build for the innovations that you want to do. Build security into it from day one. That's one whole other aspect of the problem, is this cultural issue. But that's an additional complication with this dissolved perimeter. Too many tools, too many alerts, all this kind of thing. It's making securing this environment obviously very complicated and problematic for the security teams. So, and this is the current nice, pretty picture indicating what we currently have, right? This disconnected security, all these great tools that don't talk to each other. Great at what they do, but then how do you get as much value or more value or enough value out of each one of these individual tools? That surely there must be a way to extract far greater value out of all this investment and all this work. Not only are you getting a return on investment from the tools themselves, but also you're actually improving the security and helping that business innovation and growth. So imagine if this fragmented patchwork of people, process, technologies, all communicated with each other over a common fabric in a standard, with using standard message formats and executing commonly understood actions through the whole arc of threat management, for example, from doing the threat hunting, the investigation, and then the response, if it is actually a valid attack. How do you coordinate and orchestrate all that entire arc across all the solutions that you have in place right now? We're not advocating that you have to take all this stuff out, but there is a path to do this, and we believe that path is the open security path, and it's already shown. This whole open, hugely beneficial so far. For example, Linux, massive example there. 68% of servers currently in production are on Linux. That's obviously it's an open source, very, very, very successful open source project. Lots of the applications out there now, 40% of them are using collaborative open source code to build applications and data-based projects. Again, starting to reap the benefits of open, trusted collaboration amongst peers. the management of cloud and Kubernetes, for example. So there are 4,000 individual developers working on this orchestration and management of Docker container tools. That is, again, it's accelerating the growth, avoiding vendor lock-in, huge benefit for this, the open source, working this way in this trusted open source environment. And we strongly believe that security, with all its components, is next to start climbing up this continuum, and hopefully someday will be as mature in its interoperation and openness as Linux. So it's something to hope for. So how to do that? So we're kind of looking at the way we're looking at this whole open source, open security techniques is breaking them into these four major building blocks of establishing the standards, having organizations that manage the code, the open code that comply with those standards. Critical piece of this is the integration, the standardization and integration of intelligence, threat intelligence feeds, and the way that you apply analytics to those intelligence feeds. And then once you've understood, yes, there is an attack, perhaps, what are all the best practices around securing my environment in the first place, but then from all the way through from analytics and detection and response orchestration, what are the best practices around that? So there are a bunch of and we're going to look at each one of these individually right now. So for example, security standards. FIDO has been around for a long time, working on the integration, try to eliminate password, username, password, and integrate multi-factor authentication and beyond. Stix and Taxi for standardizing the way that you transmit threat information and how that gets from one place to another. Cacao for orchestrating responses. How do you build a playbook in a machine readable format, so therefore it can be automated once an attack has been detected or you want to take some action? How do you execute a playbook that all the solutions in the environment will understand? And then OpenDXL ontology, the messaging format for, OpenDXL has been around for quite a while. It's the fabric for allowing many, and I believe it's been adopted by many organizations and solutions, and it's a fabric to allow tools to talk to each other, and the ontology is the messaging format that they use, and that's including adopting standards like OpenC2, which is the standard messaging format for closing firewall ports or deleting someone's account or things like that. So there's a lot of work there being done on creating these standards for executing each different phase of this, solving the security problem. The source code, so they're being managed by, so there's organizations such as the Open Cybersecurity Alliance, which is actually the one that we most want to focus on towards as we progress through this session. And then there's a bunch of these organizations around that are organizing the open CTI. So how do I exchange threat intelligence, cyber threat intelligence in an open standard format? Falco, another example, providing a set of tools for getting visibility into disparate cloud workloads. So a lot of organizations pulling together a lot of open source code for multiple aspects, if not all aspects of the overall security problem. Intelligence and analytics. So obviously the MITRE attack framework, fantastic in allowing you to compare what you actually see within your environment, what events, and map that to all the known tactics, techniques, and procedures of the bad guys. And you can see by what actions they are taking, what events you see within your environment, where they are in the kill chain, for example. The Threat Hunter playbook. Another open source project where they're sharing playbooks for the threat hunting process itself. How do you go about a structured threat hunting set of steps and make sure you don't miss anything? Because obviously it's a pretty stressful time, and it's great to be guided through that threat hunting process to make sure you don't miss anything and get everything done. So again, a number of great organizations doing a lot of great work in these environments. And then the best practices, top left there, the good old NIST framework, OWASP for application security, Ansible for automation, configuration management at scale, Cacao playbooks again. So a number of organizations focused on creating and managing and documenting the development of best practices in this area. So it's a fairly complete set of projects going on there. Pretty much every aspect of the security problem is being addressed, is being looked at and focused on. But how the heck do you pull all that stuff together and make a coherent set of solutions? Which ones do you pick, and where do you go for guidance? So that's where we're saying here, we are not alone, and we see the Open Cybersecurity Alliance as having adding huge value in being able to guide us through this overall management of bringing all these tools and solutions and pieces of code together. So it was co-founded last year by IBM and a number of other large and small organizations, Fortinet, McAfee, CyberArk, and a number of these fantastic boutique and smaller players that are adding significant value. So globally like-minded cybersecurity vendors, and we all want to get on this train towards getting all our tools and solutions to talk to each other in a standard, open, shareable way. That being the ultimate vision, creating this open cybersecurity ecosystem from everything from gaining insights, applying the analytics, and orchestrating a response to any actual attack. And then how? So focused again on creating an open set of tools, leveraging this trusted environment where everyone gets to check your homework as you're developing something, and develop this common set of code and tools that all organizations can share. So the idea being that you pretty much develop once, reuse everywhere as practical, as opposed to having all these different organizations creating their own funny shaped wheel, as it were, and doing their own development, which may get orphaned if certain people leave or software versions change, things like that. So massive advantages around having this maintained by a trusted community. So our first deliverable, actual tangible deliverable from this is an offering that we're giving the market called Sticks Shifter. There's also Open DXL ontology, so this standard messaging format to use over the Open DXL fabric, and this is being developed and offered and worked on with the current number of members. Now I think it's 28, maybe even 30 members in the OCA Alliance, and we started off as 16 just a few months ago. So we're starting to see a great deal of traction with this, and maybe one of the action items for yourselves is to go back to your vendors and ask them, what are they doing about this? Hopefully you'll see some of the value of this as we go through. So let's focus on the Sticks Shifter. There's one particular problem that Sticks Shifter is helping to solve now, and this is available right now. So before Sticks Shifter, the security analyst over here obviously does not have anything close to a single pane of glass. There's pretty much no such thing. If he became aware, so the use case here is, so he sees an alert, could be from CrowdStrike or our own threat intelligence, anyone's, your chosen threat intelligence feed. You see, oh, okay, I've seen some attacks in the wild that are leveraging these IOCs. Do those IOCs exist in my infrastructure? Now, previously, if most organizations have hybrid multi-clouds and multiple great tools and all these tools here, they would have to create individual searches and get results of those searches from all these different tools, or maybe even ask other teams, can you please execute this search and give me the results? That can be a huge manual, time-intensive, laborious, very inefficient process. And then you've got to assemble all those results into something that looks coherent So you can actually say, okay, across all my environment, are these IOCs present, and potentially work out how far through the kill chain the bad guys actually are. So highly ineffective, and that's one particular issue that directly highlights the ineffectiveness of having all these great tools that don't talk to each other. So what Stick Shifter does in this case, so same use case, we need to see, do these IOCs exist across my entire environment? So the analyst now just has to write one query, one single Sticks formatted query in the Stick Shifter UI. Stick Shifter will now translate that query into the native languages, the native queries, what native queries are required for each one of these data sources. These data sources will execute that query and return the results back to Stick Shifter, which will then normalize those results back into Sticks objects to present to the analyst. So with one action, a federated data search for this threat hunting purpose across multiple, there's a whole range of data sources that we have connectors for. You can see now this has drastically improved the efficiency and effectiveness of this analyst's quest to see of this threat hunting function task within his environment, and it's all normalized for him all in one single place. So that's one massive advantage now of the Stick Shifter, and that was the first thing that we were able to deliver as a result of working with the Open Cybersecurity Alliance. This function is, now we're going to get into a little bit of what that looks like in IBM land. That function is part of the IBM Cloud Pak for Security, which is what delivers the Stick Shift. You are able to get the open source yourself, or you can get it as part of the Cloud Pak for Security. And I just want to spend 1 minute, I think there's only one more quick slide on what the Cloud Pak for Security is. IBM, we're doing a lot of Cloud Paks with regards to data and a lot of major functions related to running and managing deploying cloud. This is the one that's focused on security. And the Cloud Pak for Security is kind of structured thusly. We saw a little bit of what we were just talking about, able to leave all this data wherever it is, and all the great tools that you've already got, your clouds, all your different, Splunk and Carbon Black, and all these great tools that you've got out there, how you can pull in information and get insights and execute queries across all these, distill this up into this open platform, runs on Red Hat, and so it can run anywhere, on-prem, in our cloud, in Amazon, Azure, Google Cloud, doesn't matter. And then there's a number of workflows and use cases that we're focused on right now. We're delivering immediately, and it's an ongoing process. This is the fairly early days with this, but it's already able to add significant value to your, particularly in this case, the threat management I'll run through now, the threat management process. And there's a lot of really exciting stuff going on with regards to what I think is the most exciting part, is orchestrating the response once you have detected that there is an actual an attack in your environment. So I'll quickly run through what these are. So Threat Intelligence Insights is one major functionality of this. So this is where we're providing contextual, prioritized, actionable threat intelligence. So the contextual meaning, we know what industry you're in. We looking at the different threat intelligence feeds, ours included, and we're able to say, okay, this type of attack is being carried out across at your organizations within your industry. We also have information such as context about your infrastructure and vulnerabilities that exist in your infrastructure, so we can compare known state vulnerability, security posture type information of your environment with attacks that we're seeing in the wild. And therefore, that's how we prioritize. If we're seeing certain vulnerabilities being exploited in the wild, and we know, for example, that you do have those vulnerabilities, we'll bubble that up and make that a priority, which should be the way that you prioritize what patches you roll out and things like that anyway, and what vulnerabilities you focus on mitigating, those ones that are actually being executed in the wild and exist in your environment, exploited in the wild. So there's that. So there's context-based threat intelligence insights. You need to look at this because this is directly pertinent to your environment right now. We can actually then, with the Data Explorer aspect, kick off an automated, if you've enabled this feature, you can kick off an automated federated data search for those IOCs across your environment. So not only do we understand the context of what threats apply to your environment, we can actually automate a federated data search across your entire infrastructure to see if those IOCs exist in your environment. So that's another, is cutting this down now to as near real time as possible. There's no human intervention here required and evaluating, do I really want to look for this and put the effort into searching for this particular, these IOCs in my environment? We can just do it for you. And then where I think a lot of the heavy lifting development is going to go in the future, and I think some of the most exciting things is the orchestrated incident response. So these are dynamic runbooks, playbooks, workflows that walk you through further stages of the investigation, validate that this actually is an attack against an asset you care about, and then what should I do about it? And with some of the tools that we were talking about, there's the OpenDXL ontology and OpenC2 and things like this that allow you to send actions to the solutions that you have in place. You can actually do something about it. I know many organizations are not comfortable with automating all of that response, but at least that it's one click away for the analyst. He can see he or she is presented with an action required to resolve that particular attack, and it can be automated and orchestrated with as much as that organization is comfortable with. And that feature set is getting richer and richer and richer, with thousands and thousands of integrations, with thousands of different tools where you may and configure, through Ansible, for example, we can change configurations on thousands of different pieces of infrastructure and respond to this attack. So I'm really excited about this closing the loop aspect of it, not just deciding, yes, there is an attack in my environment, but closing that loop and executing the actions to do something about it, which I think is going to be the most valuable part of this whole process and this whole set of projects. So that's why we're saying, that's why we want to help move the industry from this patchwork of awesome tools that don't talk to each other to this unified, integrated, open, community-driven infrastructure, a community of tools where you get far more value out of all of them. The sum is far greater than, the total is greater than the sum of the parts. And the efficiencies with less duplication of development and then the effectiveness of threat hunting and incident response, I think is the potential value here is just going to grow and grow and grow. And so what we would like you folks to do, reach out to us. There's more information at these. Reach out to myself potentially, or check out the Open Cybersecurity Alliance, but also talk to your vendors. Ask them, what are they doing about in this area? Why are they or why are they not working to help you and create this open, integrated cybersecurity environment? So I think that's pretty much me done. I really appreciate your time. It'd be great if you have any interest. Please reach out to me. Do some research on the web pages here. There's some good information there. Check out the Open Cybersecurity Alliance. So, I believe we have maybe a couple of minutes for questions right now.